Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Rebecca, and I don't know if this will be on Rob's channel. If it will, that's awesome
Well,
too.
can I put it on my channel too?
Absolutely. I would love for you
Outstanding.
to do it as long as people
Finally,
come
some
and
quality content on my channel because of you. Thank you for your valiant effort towards me raising the property values of my channel. For God's sake, it needs it.
well, if people and your people can come, I'm not a bodybuilder, but they can
I'm
absolutely come
not a
over and
bodybuilder
chat
either
with me. Yeah,
anymore.
hey, but you're still one of the most respected in this space, and that's what I love.
Oh, you're very kind.
S-
Who paid you?
I don't get paid. So who I am a nurse and a certified primal health coach, certified ketogenic nutrition specialist. I work as a PhD coach for Dr. Kim Berry. I'm working on the Healing Humanity documentary, and I'm just an overall just advocate for this way of life. Um, and Rob, introduce yourself and tell us about your 25 years plus in the fitness space
Yeah,
and
I can't
how
keep
you
up with
landed
it.
there.
Yeah, I can't even. It's now 30, actually, I think.
30 on your website it says
That's
25.
because you have to update that stuff. And I haven't found the right 9-year-old slave labor to come update my website for me.
That's fair.
But yeah, I need to update that. Thanks for pointing out the flaws in my content. I
You're so
appreciate that. I
welcome.
appreciate it. I need you to hold
It's
me
constructive
accountable.
criticism.
And I truly do appreciate it. No, uh, I have been doing this at a fairly high level, I think. In other words, I've been putting food on the table and feeding my family for about 31 years now doing coaching. And that's taken me through about every aspect and every channel of the health and fitness community that you could possibly imagine, from sweeping floors to being an area director for one of the biggest health club chains in the world, and then starting my own coaching practice, and then going online and having some success with that. And I guess I really kind of landed on the interwebs sort of barometer when I got kind of, recognized for being a competitive, higher level competitive amateur bodybuilder, utilizing more of a ketogenic dietary
Mhm.
approach with that. And it kind of exploded from there because I, for some reason, I had started this little group on Facebook, and at that time it was called Ketogenic Bodybuilding, and I thought about 9 people would want to join that page, and it just exploded. And I thought, surely there can't be that many people out there, and there were very interested
Mhm.
people in the high performing aspect of our culture, hard training athletes, bodybuilders, physique competitors, CrossFitters, even triathletes, every level you could possibly imagine, wanting to operate at a higher level on more of a primal, ketogenic, low carb, whatever you want to call it, diet. And
Mhm.
and then when all the kooky coo stuff happened with the spooky flu back in
2020?
2020, it
Mm.
really exploded. And because everybody was online, and it just kind of went nuts from there. And I was at a pretty cool place in 2020 as well, because I'd shifted more away from more of a hybrid ketogenic diet. And I'll explain the hybrid at a later point, to more of a carnivore diet, more in the traditional sense, not in the trendy
Mhm.
sense. And it works staggeringly well for me, as did the ketogenic diet. And I was very fortunate to do quite well in master's level NPC bodybuilding. I think I won my class, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, and made it all the way to Masters Nationals. And on one particular day in 2021 was the sixth best amateur Masters 50 plus bodybuilder in the country. And that's a mouthful, but not a big deal, but it's something I am proud of. It's something I, tell my grandkids about. But so that's kind of how I got, yanked into the space. But I've also become a very polarizing figure, because I'm
Yeah.
not one to say, hey, listen, we're going to use this one term and that's going to qualify everybody, and it's one size fits all and it's my way or the highway. And I've always hated the dogmatic approach, because as a coach in the trenches working with real people in real time for 3 decades, you learn that there are no two alike people and everybody has to be treated somewhat differently. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, because in this carnivore space, it's almost become like the vegans and the CrossFitters out there, where everybody says it's my way or the highway.
Thank
And
you.
I just don't subscribe to that. And I think it's far more nuanced. And I get a lot of hate, but I also get a lot of love. So I
Mm-mm.
reach out to the love and appreciate that, and know that I'm doing some good somewhere, and keep fighting against the dogmatic zealots out there that are kind of bringing the whole thing down. But That's kind of that is like that's 30 years in a nutshell. I started out in the hardcore bodybuilding world back in the 90s, the crazy bodybuilding 90s, and it
Mhm.
was, chicken and rice, and we talked about that a little bit before we went on
Yeah.
air, but I just evolved from there, and I started out very paleo primal
Okay.
before that was even cool, because I actually landed onto that from an endurance coach, a guy that trained in high level endurance athletes, and it was from a very tiny obscure article in a triathlon magazine. And here I am, this 230-pound bodybuilder eating chicken and rice, that stumbles onto this small article from an endurance magazine that made so much sense to me. And I think it was something about the caveman diet or something like that. And I've always been a very inquisitive soul. So I started going down several rabbit holes, came into the paleo primal thing, and then that exploded right around 2004. And then if you're in that world, then at some point you're going to start going down ketogenic rabbit holes, which I did. And that made a lot of sense. And I had some success with that. And I was just kind of quietly doing the keto thing, minding my own business, and then decided that I wanted to, throw my hat back in the ring and actually compete in bodybuilding rather than just being a coach, because I'd done that for many, many years. And I thought, how can I do this and still stay true to my ketogenic diet principles, which have served me so well and made me feel so good,
Mhm.
and still have some success in bodybuilding? And for me, that turned into some sort of a cyclical ketogenic approach that works
Okay.
staggeringly well. And then it works staggeringly well for so many others. And then fast forward to the Facebook group that I mentioned. And then here we go, Carnivore in 2019, 2020, shit hits the bed. And then here we are. So yeah, I hope that kind of confuses
Yeah.
everybody a little bit more.
So what led you to try you said that it was somebody decided, like, had told you about doing a more ketogenic approach.
Right.
And and then that led sort of like was it like a stair step? Did you at one
It was
point
an
like you
evolution. Yeah, it was an
okay.
evolution for sure. It started out because here I am, a guy that had, coached athletes and bodybuilders all through the crazy bodybuilding hardcore 90s. And here I am, I'm very muscular, and I think I'm in shape, and I think I'm doing the right things. And I'm in my, late 20s, early 30s, and wondering, why does everything hurt? Why am I so inflamed? Why do my joints hurt? I'm supposed to be, the picture of physical perfection, and I was the complete opposite of that. Yeah, I could pick up heavy things, and aesthetically, I looked the part, but something was amiss. And at my core, I was still a trainer and a coach. So I needed answers, because I needed to be able to translate that information to people who put their trust and faith as me as a coach, because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, is bringing out the best in others. And that took me down that road. And through exhaustive and thorough, research, I landed on that, and then it just kept evolving, and I've never really looked back from there. But at the same time, I was always very logical and rational in my thought processes and in the whole mechanisms of it, still, staying away from that whole dogmatic universe. And once keto got corporate sponsorship and went off the rails, then I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth. And even now, with kind of being known as a carnivore influencer, or whatever the hell they're calling us these days, I really wish we didn't have to put a term on any of it. But unfortunately, we have to have a category, because we
Yeah.
have to have this, we have to have this on ramp for people to find us and to be informed. But I,
I think that's why I really like Dr. Ken Berry's terminology of a proper human diet,
yeah,
because, just getting rid of the shit and eating real food.
oh,
Like,
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I like the fact that he includes several genres in that community. Just the other day, I heard him on YouTube saying that, low carb, primal, keto, paleo, carnivore, he included all of that into
mhm.
the proper human diet. And I think that was an important thing. And I hope everybody caught that. And I think that's a very sly way of saying, again, not every one thing works for everybody. This is a very individualized thing. And I told a client earlier today, I said, of the multiple billion people that populate this planet, there are no two that have the same gut bacteria, the same gut flora, and everybody responds differently to everything. And
Yeah.
you know, you can be the most intelligent PhD clinician on the planet, and I have immense respect for them. But there's also something to be said about somebody who's down deep into the trenches, working with real human beings, you know,
Yeah.
8, 10 hours a day in the trenches of my gym, and also, you know, working with a very large online client base. And, you know, I can attest to the fact that I don't think there are any two alike individuals that I work with. Everything is going to be slightly nuanced to every single person. But if I mention some of those nuances, like in a Facebook group or on a YouTube, you know, video, I get attacked from all sides. It's just this big back alley knife fight because I said, oh, yeah, this particular person's having 30 grams of carbs. And all of a sudden, I'm the spawn of Satan for
I've
suggesting
noticed
such a
that.
crazy thing.
I've noticed that in the group.
Oh,
I
it's
try to
insane.
be, I
Yeah.
do try to be nice in the group sometimes.
God bless you.
So,
That's got to be
but
hard.
well, there's some people I'm like, dude, watch his videos. You're in his group. Can you just go watch his
Uh,
videos? Like,
I,
you want to know what he does? Just
yeah.
YouTube. He's on YouTube.
My
Like,
favorite is when, who is this guy? The guy that started the group, and you know, the admin, the moderator, the guy with, you know, I'm like, and I just chuckle. I don't tell him. I'm just like, if you'll figure it out, or maybe you're beyond hope. I don't know, but you know, it's within this
there's a lot of back
community.
alley knife fights over Seco, but
There
that's
is.
a
I mean,
topic for
we're
another
we're
day.
trying to coax a squirrel to come nibble out of our hands. We don't want to make any big sudden movements and scare the shit out of them. So we have to be a little bit tactical in the approach. And I'm a big free speech advocate. So my thing is, you know, say whatever you want. Any opinion I think is valid. Just don't be an asshole. And as long as you follow that criteria and you're not name calling, then we can all play in the same sandbox. And I think that kind of needs to be the way we look at all of this stuff.
And my kid's principal probably would not think that about me. That was fun yesterday. That's
Hmm.
beside the point.
Well, we all love modern education, don't we?
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Such a fine,
Such a
fine
fine thing.
establishment, such a wonderful arm of the federal government.
It's so
Everybody should be so
great.
proud. Yeah.
It's so great. Um, so you mentioned that in your 20s and 30s, you were like, whoa, I hurt.
Yes.
So you decided to switch to keto. So I want to
Mhm.
kind of talk about so how did that impact it? Did it go away?
It was
Like how,
staggering. Yeah. It
okay.
really came to a head when I actually went to a local doctor and I explained to him, and it was actually a member of the gym that I was the head of training in. And I explained to him all of my issues with massive joint distress. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes it would take me 30 minutes to get out of bed, and everything hurt and everything, and there was nothing physically wrong with me. And because I am who I am, you know, I went down so many rabbit holes about chronic and systemic inflammation and how
Mhm.
the body reacts through nutrition. And I said, could this possibly be nutrition related? And his words were some along the lines of, no, that's impossible, that's crazy. And then he literally, and I'm not exaggerating, suggested that it could be just in my head and it might be a mental thing. And
Welcome to gaslighting.
yeah, rather than trash his office and embarrass him in front of his staff, I politely, you know, nodded my head and I said, okay, we're done here. And then I just went on to self-diagnose myself. And the first step that I made literally was as simple as I cut out, you know, all sugars, all processed foods, all
Hmm.
factory dairy, and 90% of all grains. And I had overwhelming success just with that. And since that was such a cool thing, and I found that I could still perform well in the gym, I could still perform at a high level, then I just kept attacking it and doing, you know, almost like an elimination diet, subtract
Hmm.
this, reintroduce that. And that's sort of how I landed on keto, because as you're researching primal ancestral diets and paleo and all this, the word ketogenic kept popping up. So I investigated that further and realize the interplay between energy systems and producing ketones. And then the very unpopular thing now that I get from the keto community is when I suggest that it's probably not a good thing to be in super long-term ketosis, and we should bump out of that from here and there, you know, here and there, and there should be more of a level and concern of metabolic flexibility and da da da. And so there again, I mean, it's very, very nuanced, and you have to have a very unique strategy that applies solely to the individual. And
Yeah.
then
Well,
that progressed into carnivore in 2019, and I was
yeah.
in the hardcore into the competitive bodybuilding scene I had already competed.
At that time, yeah, because I saw
Yeah,
that on your website.
yeah, I started competing in 2014 and had some success with that. I thought I'd do one show just to get a perspective of that life on stage.
It's
And
addicting, isn't it? It must have.
it's insane. So I did that one show thinking I'm just going to do this one. It's going to
Mhm.
be just a bucket list thing, something I can, tell my grandkids about. And I did that show and I placed second in both of my classes I was in. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't even think I'd place. I thought I'd get laughed off the stage. I know 5 minutes after, I walked off the stage and got my medals, I looked at my wife and I said, when's the next one? She's like, oh God. She knows how obsessive I can be about things. And, I'll just do one show turned into almost a decade of constant competition prep and delving into the nuances and the science of that and becoming obsessed with it. And I also learned along the way, and it's important to note, and that, high level competitive bodybuilding is not healthy. It's it's nothing I would recommend somebody do super long term. I mean, there were points where I took my physique to such an extreme, trying
Mhm.
to get down to like 4% body fat and the dieting that was required to do that in those last 6, 8, 10 weeks, that it was not a healthy place to be. And I remember in the last show that I did to qualify for nationals, where I actually won my class, won two classes actually, and almost won the whole damn show as a master. Um, it I was I swear to God I would have been a candidate to be taken to the emergency room just from having so little nutrition and
It's
hydration and the manipulation that's involved to do something at that level.
yeah.
And that's why in 2021, after I did the nationals, I said, I can't do this anymore. And that was fun and I wouldn't change it. It was a great experience, but I'm very truthful with everything that I do. And I don't lie to people. I tell you straight whether you like it or not. But I said, now I had, at my age, at that time I was like 51, 52. I said, now I have to focus on health, longevity, performance,
Yeah.
and just being the best high performing human being that I can possibly be at my age. So I just turned 56. And so my goal now is,
Congratulations.
well, thank you. I made it and still hanging tough at 56. But so every calendar year that passes by, my goal is to wake up the morning after my birthday and say, am I currently in that, maybe 1 to 2% of, 56-year-old males in terms of being able to perform at a high level, to do hard things, to, provide for my family at the greatest level and, sustain high levels of health and be very confident that I am on a path that I've set forward to where I will be, you know, able to say the same thing when I'm 66 and 76. I'm still the weirdo. I'm a freaking grandfather, as odd as that sounds. And I'm the guy that takes his 6-year-old grandson to the park, and I'm out there going face first down the slide and getting my jeans dirty, and my wife's yelling at me, and I'm swinging on monkey bars and, showing 9-year-olds that I can do pull-ups, and everybody's saying, look at that crazy old man. But the sad part of that is when I look around and I'm got all these kids around me. They think I'm this big crazy weirdo. My grandson thinks it's the greatest thing ever. And I see all of these, parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles sitting on the benches, too fat, too unhealthy, and too lazy to get up and play with their
Mhm.
damn kids. And
Well,
that
have you?
angers me and depresses me at the same time. And that will
It's
never be me.
it's very sad. Have you? I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Healing Humanity. Have you seen it?
I have not, no.
I'll have to send it to you. So there's a lady on there named Maggie. Have you heard of Maggie, the carnivore rancher?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So
Amazing.
she's in her 80s, and
Yeah.
in
She's like
this, you'll
82 or something, like
she's
83, something like that.
83 now.
Yeah.
Um, she is phenomenal, and she still has like the energy of a 20-year-old
That's
working on a
fantastic.
ranch. And you'll see her doing that. And she takes her shirt off, like she's got a tank top on, she's flexing, and she's got muscles that an 83-year-old shouldn't have, you know, according to our standards today. But she's still climbing over fences and wrangling
Awesome.
cattle and all these things. And it's like, which one are we supposed to be? Are we
100%.
supposed
Yeah.
to be like her, or what we see the 83-year-old who can't walk anymore in a nursing home?
Absolutely.
Like you have to choose your
Oh,
path.
yeah, and my big message always is, yeah, the diet's important, the training
Mhm.
protocol is important. It's all so synergistic, and the fact that she is as amazing as she is isn't just the diet. It's the level of activity, it's the amount of sun exposure, it's the avoidance of environmental toxins, and the list goes on and on. She probably hasn't ingested a seed oil in 50 years, if not ever. And
65 years of being a carnivore because she's like, I just don't like eating vegetables. I'm like, fair. But
yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
she eats meat and animal products and they supply their own food.
Amazing. I mean, that's the dream. That's the goal. I mean, me and my wife we live, in Western North Carolina. So, we
Mhm.
still live, not in the big metropolis, but our end game is to, get 50 acres out in the middle of
And
nowhere
homestead.
somewhere, homestead, get living in a solar cabin somewhere. Just give me satellite internet so I can still, be an idiot on YouTube and be able to train some online clients, and then we will live the dream, raise animals and raise our own food. And we do that now. I mean, it's impressive that we live literally in a neighborhood on a half acre, and we've got 11 raised bed garden beds. I know you're not supposed to eat vegetables, but my wife loves to garden, and I will have some of the ones that I
Hey,
tolerate well.
zucchini.
It's phenomenal.
Zucchini is amazing.
It's
And
it's
it's
amazing.
one that I can tolerate. So I eat it when I can.
And I don't ever apologize for that. Now, if I'm eating and drinking kale smoothies and eating copious amounts of raw spinach, then that's a dumbass thing to do, and that's contraindicated and not good for anybody, in that quantity. But I say this all the time. I love onions. And I believe you
Mhm.
could put onions on a flip flop and then I'd eat it and it would be a fantastic flip flop. And I'm not going to avoid eating onions because I love them. And my wife also makes this amazing sauteed cabbage with grass-fed butter and garlic, the cabbage coming out of our own garden. And I
Mhm.
will eat that by the handfuls and make no apology to it. And then we also have some just gorgeous berry bushes, organic
Mhm.
berry bushes in our yard, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. And I love it when the keto carnivore zealots, climb up my ass because I just ate some blackberries. And I'm like, if you think that walking onto your own property and picking fresh berries that are ripe and in season from organic seeds and eating them in the
Mhm.
backyard in the sunshine with your grandson is bad, then can I use foul language on this show? I'll avoid it. You can go piss off because I think that
Fair
is a
enough.
ludicrous statement to make to any human being that is, trying to be the best version of themselves as they can possibly be. I'm not eating processed shit. I'm not drinking seed oils. You know, I'm
Hmm.
not living that life at all. And
Well,
I
I
think,
think I want to, I think we've gone too far in the carnivore space
you think?
and it's become a religion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And don't, I have one religion that I follow and it
Same.
is not about meat eating.
Right.
And, so I'm a Christian. Um, and
Same.
yeah,
It's
so
like
it's like
now we're in a support group for Christians,
we
carnivores who
are
admit they're
carnivore.
Christian. We're a minority, I think.
Go watch my show with Dante Ferrigno.
Okay. I'll do
Like
that.
go do that. It was like 2 hours. You might have to break it up. But we talked about being carnivore and Christian and reconciling it all. Um,
That's a whole nother podcast right there.
it was a very long podcast.
Well, that
Um,
that should be part two of ours maybe one day, because I've
maybe
got
one
some
day.
interesting
Absolutely.
views on
When
that too. Yeah.
if I don't have to wait 2 months to book with you, you're like,
I'm very
sure.
popular. I'm
You
very
are very
popular.
popular.
Actually, it's just the illusion of success. I actually mark off on my calendar spots myself just to make me look important and busy, just to create that illusion of success. And that's
I
what's
doubt
kept me
that.
going for so long now, is pretending. And I've been on
I
a 31
highly,
year lucky streak. So
I
yeah.
know. Yeah. So, what are the common misconceptions that you like see with your clients? So, because you train people
Mhm.
and they come in and they're like, I need help because I want what you have. Everybody goes to a trainer, a coach,
Right.
not because they just picked them out of a book. They see something, they're like, I want what you have, and you're selling it, so give it to me. So when let's say you have somebody comes in and they're not standard American, but they're standard bodybuilding, and
I
they're
will.
like,
You know
yeah,
what? 98% of my clients w- couldn't pick a bodybuilder out of a lineup. They are just real people
Hmm.
trying to be the best version of most of them are active, most of them lift, are trying to be
Hmm.
high performing individuals. And I have some people who haven't never touched a weight in their life and they want to learn how. And that's some of my favorites. But
Then you have a blank canvas. Those are good.
yeah, no bad habits.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful place. And my big message so often is, and I usually tell the story, and if you've heard it before, I apologize for being repetitive. Old people do that. They tell the same story over and over again.
That's
But
only in dementia. Go ahead.
fair, fair. But if you and I, or me and the prospective client were to meet in an airport bar,
Hmm.
and we both had about 15 minutes before we were to catch our flights, and through just casual conversation, over a beer, relax. Um, we found out through that conversation what each of us did for a living.
Hmm.
And knowing that we only had a few minutes, that this new friend of mine said, "So I know we only have a few minutes. If you would tell me what I should do to become the best genetic version of myself that I could possibly be,
Hmm.
lean, fit, high performing, great health, great blood work, be able to really focus on longevity, what would that be?" I'd say, well, that's easy. And I'd pull out literally a small square bar napkin and I'd whip out a pen and I would write down, well, number one, you need to focus on animal-based nutrition.
Hmm.
At least 70% or more of your food should be coming from the best raised animal-based sources that you can find. You really need to prioritize your protein, especially if you're over 40. And really, you need to choose your energy component. I think fat is the best energy component as your dominant energy source. And you might just want to kind of dial that in according to whatever your output is.
Hmm.
Carbs are not the best idea for most people because we've abused our body over the years. So try to limit that and find small amounts of carbohydrates that you tolerate well, obviously avoiding simple sugars. Avoid all processed food, never consume seed oils ever again. And if you just start with that, you're on the right track. 3 days a week, minimum, even two if you're a beginner. Lift heavy things. Get involved in a simple strength training program because, again, especially if you're over 40, nothing's more important than building skeletal muscle, strong
Hmm.
bone health. That's really going to be that combined with your diet is going to be your magic formula for longevity. And you don't necessarily have to do cardio. However, I love cardio and I love rucking and I love being out there in fresh air and sunlight. If you're getting 15,000 steps a day just through your daily activity, you're probably good. If you're not like most people, then go take a damn walk a few days a week. You'll find that it might turn into one of the best 30 to 45 minutes of your day. And then outside of that, you're going to want to avoid a lot of environmental toxins, get plenty of sunlight as much as you can possibly get, avoid blue light stimulation after sunset, and try to really focus on getting, 7, 8 hours of sleep a night. Everything I just said, not a bit of it is revolutionary. None of what I just said is something you've never heard before. And I fit that on this bar napkin. Probably have to go to the back of the napkin for some of the liner notes. I hand that to my new friend who gets on their flight, takes off, and goes. In their possession really is the formula that if you apply that into your lifestyle, 85%, you can make a dramatic wholesale change and literally it will become like a superpower. It's not the prescription so much. It's not necessarily the blueprint. It's the practice. It's the application that matters.
Hmm.
We live in the greatest temptation culture of all time. You can't go into Home
Agreed.
Depot and buy a fucking screwdriver without being tempted by candy, soda, and chips at the checkout counter.
Yep.
It's insane. Everything you eat, if you eat out, has seed oils in it, unless you find some little boutique restaurant somewhere in Austin, Texas that does everything grass fed with no seed oils. But those, you have to really hunt for that
And you have to
you know,
pay for it.
and you got to pay for it. So, you're getting inundated with seed oils. Every time you put seed
Mhm.
oils in your body, they maintain inside your body for up to
Two to
four and
seven
a half
years.
years. It's
Oh,
7 years
it's
for some.
yeah, it's really
Yeah, the
ridiculous.
average is like 4.5 years, and the detrimental side effects of that are just extremely profound. So, again, it's the application and the practice of it. I can't teach motivation. But by being a coach, one of the benefits that I do have is I can sort of be there with people in the trenches through the process, through that application. but through the dedication factor, because
Hmm.
everybody is fired up. Like when they go on Johnny Carnivore's channel and he says, I've got the formula. All you got to do is eat ribeye, salt, and water for the rest of your freaking life, and you're going to be shredded and peeled and healthy and have perfect blood work. And Mr. Desperate is like, I'm in. That sounds super sexy, super
There's a few
exciting.
of them.
Excitement sells, that
Hmm.
sexiness sells, the perceived ease of that really sells. But when you jump back into the real world in your real life and you're 3 months into this thing and you're about to eat your 47th ribeye with a sprinkle of salt and another freaking glass of water, I'm sorry. And I know there's somebody out there who's going to say, I do that and I do just fine. Well,
And
congratulations. Keep doing
congratulations,
that.
90% of America
Don't
cannot do that.
don't change a thing, but don't stomp on people's feet who find that unsustainable, because that's
Hmm.
99.8% of the population,
Hmm.
at the minimum. So you don't have to live that dogmatic lifestyle to make a
Yeah.
huge wholesale change in your life. I think I'm living proof of that. Many of my clients are living proof of that. I know influencers out there who are living proof of that.
Hmm.
And, even, people like, I've heard Anthony Chafee. I've heard
Hmm.
Sean Baker. I think I've even heard Dr. Ken say, you know, there's nuance to it. And I
Yeah.
have definitely heard Anthony Chafee say, hey, if you're eating some little bit of vegetables here and you're eating a little bit of fruit here or whatever, and if that's working for you, then keep doing what you're doing. And I echo that every single day. And that's why when I went carnivore, me being who I am, I looked at the literal definition of a carnivore diet. Like if you were to walk into an Ivy League school or any major university and go to that department and ask what a carnivore diet is, they're going to tell you that the definition is, well, that is a hypercarnivore or an obligate carnivore diet where 70% or more of your food is coming from animal-based sources. Okay, that makes sense. Because
Hmm.
why does that make sense to me? Because if you and I were to get into a time machine and go back, 30,000 years, and we're out on some African plain somewhere trying to survive, which the survival hierarchy of our ancestors was pretty simple. You had to have water, you had to have warmth, you had to have shelter, you had to have food, and then outside of that, you warded off anything that tried to take your shit from you, and then you played and you slept. That was it. That's all you did, and that's all you had to focus on every day. Now, fast forward to this, world where everything is so
Yeah.
twisted and we're tempted by everything and manipulated by every three-letter agency on the planet. The sustainability factor and the survivability factor is extremely difficult now. So we have to do the very, very best we can. So if I go on YouTube and I say a carnivore diet for me is 70% or more, oh, well, 70%, you're eating 30% carbohydrates? Immediate assumption, well, no. That other 30% is open to interpretation based on your lifestyle, your health, your genetics, your geography. So many things come into play there. Somebody who's very metabolically healthy, an athlete, for example, can definitely get away with 30 grams of carbs in their day if it's coming from foods that they tolerate well. And for me, that's like maybe a little bit of white rice, maybe a little bit of potato, maybe a little bit of organic fruit, and the occasional vegetable, occasional, and everything else in that spectrum is generally farm raised or grass fed beef and pastured eggs. And I'm thriving on that. I can maintain 10, 12% body fat year round doing that, perform at a high level at 56 years old, and so I'm not going to change just because Johnny Carnivore said on his YouTube channel that the sexy way to do carnivore was just to eat ribeyes until you die. I'm
I
just
mean,
not
I
going to
won't
do that.
lie. If I could afford that and my body tolerated that, I would do it.
Well,
It's
yeah,
my
I mean,
favorite cut, but
me too. I eat ribeyes probably 3 times a week. And,
mm,
or I might have a New York strip or I might have a filet. Hey, I like
hmm.
fillets. I personally, talking
I
about,
like fillets are my
I
favorite.
love them. And, everybody's like,
I
oh,
don't
the
care how
fat.
lean they are. No, I buy the big ones, like the
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
roasts, and I cut them
You
into
cut them up.
steaks
Right,
and I
right, right.
don't trim them.
Yeah, that's fine. And the thing is like talking about personal nuance. I like a little bit of carbs
Hmm.
around hard training efforts sometimes. Do you see how
Describe
I
that. Describe that
enunciated
then.
that? Um,
Describe that for me because some people are gonna be like, "Oh, that means like, okay, so how I lift when I lift. Here's
mhm.
just my example. Is I do, I don't know what you would call it, but have you heard of the McGuff method?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I tend to do that where I try to spend as little time in the gym as possible. I work to muscle failure as much as I can, so I have to be able to walk out. I don't have a wheelchair out. but I try to do the big five and then blast my shoulders because I have shoulder injuries. So I have to do little tiny
Yeah.
weights on those. And I'm out in 25 minutes, but
Same.
I can't write my name
Same.
because it looks like this when I'm trying to hold a pen,
Right.
right? That is a hard training day for most people,
It should
but
be.
I don't
That's
do
the ideal way to train.
carbs.
And if it
I do fasted and
I have
I
clients
find that
that
I feel better that way.
great. I have clients that love to train fasted. Guess what I tell them? Continue
Mhm.
to do that. I have clients that say, I prefer to be fed before I train. Okay, what do you like to have before you train?
Mhm.
I do great just eating some meat or meat and eggs. Okay, great. Continue to do that. I have some people that say, I tried training fasted, hated it. I tried it for 2, 3 months, still hate it. I tried just having fat or just having protein, do not do well. And I say, well, have you tried having any carbohydrate? And then after they come back to consciousness because everybody told them don't have carbs or you're going to
Yeah.
die, then I recommend that, trying that. And I've got probably 65, 70% of my clients now doing that here and there around super hard training efforts and saying it was an absolute game changer for them. Are
Mhm.
they wrong? No, because
No.
they're still getting lean, their health is improving, they feel fantastic. Every health marker that you could imagine has improved. And like for me, sometimes I'll break it down into a carbohydrate. I call it my carb scenario talk. So
Mhm.
for me, like, let me just paint a picture. So all night I've slept, so I wake up fasted. And in the mornings, I'll either have just coffee after I've had water with salt and electrolytes,
Mhm.
and I still drink coffee. Sue me, somebody just passed out on the other side of the screen.
I
Uh,
don't, none of my people are dogmatic. So anybody that's
oh,
going to be
thank
watching
God!
this,
I
they're not
love
like
that's why
super
you have
dogmatic.
the best people on your channel of
I
anyone
only
out
have
there.
800 and some right now. So
Well,
I'm
that's
tiny.
better to have 800 badasses than 10,000 wishy-washy namby,
I
you know.
appreciate that.
So here's the way I look at it. And it's funny because, if anybody knows who Bart K is, I went on his show recently
That was the best.
and I walked through what I do. And I
Yeah.
kind of did that on purpose. A, because I love Bart and he and I are
Hmm.
friends. We don't agree on everything.
No.
But I wanted to see who somebody who I truly respect and I appreciate his incredible intelligence and his knowledge. I laid out what I believe, just like I'm doing now,
Hmm.
and he absolutely agreed with everything that I said. Does that mean he does what I do? No, he has his way that works best for him. I
Hmm.
have my way, but it's all, we can all live in that same sandbox and play with all of our toys and everybody be happy, right?
Yep.
So for me, back to the scenario, I wake up fasted because I've slept all night. And long before I went to bed, all I had was generally, protein and fat.
Hmm.
And I wake up, obviously I'm glucose depleted because I take in very small amounts of carbs anyway. So once I take them in there, they get burnt through very quickly. So I'm going through my morning with coffee. Sometimes I like to have coffee with a little bit of MCT oil. Sometimes I
Okay.
like to have coffee with a splash of heavy cream and a little bit of MCT oil. I only
Okay.
use C8 MCT oil because it's just the energy component of the MCT chain. So it goes right into the mitochondria of the muscle and is used as effective energy. It does help produce ketones and it gives me a mental clarity that I can't describe. I just absolutely love it. And I've been using MCT oil, kids. Everybody listen to this. I've been using MCT oil since 1994. Back when
That's before it was popular.
there was a bodybuilding legend coach named John Perillo who made MCT oil because he figured out when his bodybuilding clients were in a very carb depleted state right before competition to get super lean, if he gave them C8 MCT oil, it gave them tons of energy so they could still train hard in the gym on extremely low carbs and not sacrifice those efforts. And
Mm,
he was a genius. And
brilliant. That's
I've been
brilliant.
using it forever. And so when I came into the keto world and I heard people talking about MCT oil, I'm like, yeah, I've been using that shit for years. It's fantastic. And I still get shit for that. But so I take in a little bit of C8 MCT oil, just love the way it makes me feel.
Hmm.
And then either I will have no food up until my pre-workout meal. If I train around noon, I probably won't have any food until a pre-workout meal. And
Hmm.
that pre-workout meal may be 20, 30 grams of rice, cream of rice. It could be a rice cake with a little bit of raw honey and salt. It could
Okay.
be a freaking banana. And sometimes I'll even add some protein in with that. And so what I've done now, here's what
I don't like
some
bananas. It's like,
if you don't like bananas, never eat bananas. That again, that's to my entire point. So when I say things like that, somebody will always say, well, when you do that, you're turning off the fat burning mechanism. No
That is so
shit.
not true, but
Well,
that's not
it kind
100%
not
true.
100%, but it kind of is. But that's okay because I don't give a shit because I'm about to go lift and then I'm going to go out on a 45-minute ruck with 50 pounds on my back in North Carolina hills in the freaking heat or the cold, whatever. So
Yep.
when I take in those 30 grams of carbs, I'm already in a
It's
glucose
gonna be
depleted
gone.
state. So I soak up those carbohydrates, and I am turning off to some degree my fat burning metabolism. And what that does, though, is it is a protein sparing state now because I have introduced the energy source of carbohydrates. So I am
True.
not going to convert any protein via gluconeogenesis to supply my body with glucose or energy needs for that workout. See, Bart and I do this differently. We're both right, and neither one of us are wrong. He would prefer to go through the gluconeogenesis process,
Mm-hmm.
convert amino acids into energy. I would prefer to just go right to the source, take in a little bit of carbohydrate that I tolerate well, and use that for my usable short-term energy, sort of like throwing dry leaves on a fire. And then I burn through that. I'm going to spare the protein to let it do its job. To me,
Yeah.
gluconeogenesis around training almost seems like a backup system. That's just me.
Yeah.
And then so I go through a extremely high intensity training style workout, and then I'll often go do a ruck after that. And you and I both know damn well, because you're way smarter than me and you've got cool letters next to your name, that by the time that exercise activity is done, those carbs are freaking gone. And if they're
Yes.
not through the intensity of exercise and the heightened state that I'm in, they will be gone shortly after that
Shortly
training session is
after.
over. Shortly after.
Well, and I think what people don't understand too, and this is for anybody out there who wants a little tiny itty bitty physiology lesson. When you could when we say that people are switching to a fat burning state versus a glucose burning state, that is for an overall status.
Right.
You can have mitochondria in your calf muscles that are still burning glucose, while the rest of your mitochondria is like, I don't have glucose available. I've only got fatty acids available.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
therefore, that's what I'm doing. So it's not like the whole every switch, every mitochondria gets like a message like, hey, now we're all in fat burning over here. Oh, nope, now we're all in glucose. It's
Right.
not
Right.
how it works. And I think that there's a misconception on that.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly true. And that's very, very well put. So much better than I could have put it. But as an overall state, people get the misconception that, oh, if I have that 20 grams of carbs, I'm no
Hmm.
longer burning any fat, and I'm wasting this hour where I could be burning fat. You've got
You
plenty
burn
of
through
time to
that
burn the
glucose
fat
you burn through that glucose so fast, it's not even
so
funny.
fast. And here's another pesky thing. Even though it's slight, I'll
Hmm.
give you that, even though it's slight, and it is nuanced to the individual as well,
Hmm.
carbohydrate is still the best energy component for high intensity, short term muscular contractions. Not that fat is bad. It's just a very close second. So I'm choosing my weapon. I'm putting a nitrous oxide boost into my Ferrari so I can go do, point
A
A to
sprint.
point B. I can go to the street light and race the asshole in the Camaro and win. And then I'll go back to normal driving after that.
Hmm.
So by doing that, and that's what got me through nearly a decade of high level bodybuilding competition. It helps me spare protein. I retain lean muscle mass.
Hmm.
I perform at a very high level. And I've gotten so good at understanding my body that people say, do you always do carbs before a workout? Nope. I go by feel. Well, what does that mean? I wish I could explain it to you. I know my body so well now that I can be an hour prior to a very hard workout, and I just know today I'm going to need a little extra. I need a little extra to get through that. Or today I'm feeling really good right now. I think I'll be just fine to train fasted or just on a normal, I can just go have steak and eggs and I'll be fine. So
Do
it's
you
nuanced for me.
do you find that you have that being on the ketogenic carnivore side has made you more in tune to that? Because
Oh,
yeah, I
100%.
was gonna say I feel like I'm more in tune to like hunger signals and what my body needs. And and we'll talk later about what my little experiment is right now. And then you can you can bash me. Um,
I
but it's
would
like,
never.
oh yes, it's okay. We all run in the same circle. Um, but yeah, so I do feel like I'm more in tune, and I've heard that from other people. How long did it take you to feel more in tune?
I would say it really developed for me in 2019 when went more from what I called a hybrid ketogenic nutrition protocol
Hmm.
to a hybrid carnivore bodybuilding nutrition protocol. When I simplified everything for my 2019 contest prep, and that's the way I ate for the remainder of my bodybuilding competition life, I really felt everything get so fine-tuned. It was almost like this weird little superpower. It would make me laugh, where I could feel everything turning on, shutting off, switching over. It was really kind of miraculous. And I attribute that to just getting a lot of the unnecessary crap out of my system. I
Hmm.
I probably eliminated 90% of vegetable matter that I used to consume, and I felt extremely better. All the bloating was gone, any gastrointestinal issues were gone. I got leaner faster. I felt like every part of my operating system was operating at peak efficiency. And I just narrowed my carbohydrate inclusion down to just a couple of things here and there. And then now that I'm not competing in bodybuilding anymore, I can be a little more liberal with that. But again, everybody's different. Here's an example. I mean, when I get a new client, it's pretty much a given. Like if they come to me and say, I want to follow more of a carnivore keto, look,
Hmm.
whatever, that's kind of what I do. That's what I'm known for. You know, if you look at the, 40 people that I might be coaching one-on-one at that time, they're going to be anywhere from 10 to 100 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
And I've got a young lady who is a competitive bodybuilder at a very high level in Las Vegas, and she's going to be competing for her pro card next year. And in our first show together, she grabbed second place and could have won the damn thing. Just absolutely stunning work.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Well, she's a wonderful girl,
I
and
think she might be one of my friends, and I think I'm told her to go see you.
well, I appreciate that. And we actually have her on, if I'm not mistaken, right around 110 grams of carbs right now, almost on a one-to-one ratio with carbohydrate and fat. And she is responding so well to that. It's staggering. We're in the off season, so she's putting on lots of muscle. She's put on a little bit of good body fat that she's going to need through this mass gaining phase. Her health markers are perfect. She feels spectacular. And even things like, she's a young girl, so she used to
Well,
work.
maybe we might not be talking about the same
Okay,
person.
but probably maybe a similar scenario. But
Maybe.
she used to use terminology like stress and anxiety, and
Hmm.
all that is gone. And
That's great.
I've got this girl on a 110 grams of carbs, and when I had her
Hmm.
competing, I had her still on about 60 grams of carbs, and a little
She
more
was doing
fat,
amazing.
and she did staggeringly well. And in her first competition, she was with another coach that had her on a super high fat, moderate protein diet all the way to the stage, and it failed miserably. I mean,
Mm.
she just did not have the look, did not have the definition, didn't have the right body composition, didn't feel right, nothing clicked. So once again, everybody's a little different. Now,
Different,
yes,
yeah.
predominantly the overwhelming majority of the people that I coach are going to be somewhere between 10 and 50 grams of carbs.
Hmm.
Some people, I tell them out of the gate, you can't have any carbs. You're freaking broken. You have put so much abuse on your system for so many years. We need a complete system reboot, and it's going to take a long time. It could be a year before we start
Mm.
reintroducing, some carbohydrate or even other foods back into your protocol just to see if your tolerance has changed. I worked with a very successful dentist who, if you gave him 10 grams of carbs, he would completely fall apart. It was absolutely unbelievable. And now now he can have a little this on occasion or have a little that and live his life a little bit. And he says for the first time in 30 years, he can actually eat these foods now and feel great, not gain weight, not get bloated, not feel like shit, not have to go take a nap.
And not feel
So,
guilty.
and not feel guilty because
Like, is
I
this because
refuse
this is
that.
not AA?
Right.
I try to tell my people that this is not Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, I had a client that I just started working with, and she was on 30 grams of carbohydrate and almost mostly protein and fat, and obviously, and she messaged me in a panic about a week in, and she's like, "I'm the worst client ever. I think I've ruined everything. I don't know if there's any coming back from this. I understand if you want to fire me, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And
What did you eat?
she's like, "I had almost 100 grams of carbs today." I'm like, okay, that happens, no big deal. Was it from like, did you go to Krispy Kreme and just blow it out? She's like, no, I just had like a little extra vegetables, a little extra fruit, and I had a little bit of rice with dinner. And for some reason, I was just craving it, and I couldn't say no. And I know I'm a bad person, da da da. And I'm like, you're fine.
This
I
is
s-
not AA.
and
Oh
and
my
the point
gosh.
that I made to her was this. I said, number one, tomorrow's a new day. This will happen from time to time. You didn't just kill yourself. And I guarantee you that the cortisol secretion and the stress that you induced from worrying about it was far more damaging than the carbs themselves. So are we really living in a world right now where 30 grams of carbs is a death sentence? Is that where we're at? Because if that's the case, then this whole thing is went completely off the rails, and everybody needs to pull back, push the pause button, and recalibrate a little bit because that's just crazy. I understand some people do so much better on as low carb as possible, and I applaud them. I embrace them.
Mhm.
I say, do not change a thing. But to expect every individual to live under the exact same
Mhm.
umbrella guidelines that everybody else does, like a bunch of robots, is just not a healthy way or a healthy perspective to look at human nutrition. Our
Exactly.
ancestors ate things outside of the animal-based realm. They did. That was
Whatever was in
survival.
season. It was,
Anything that they had. They
yeah.
were not, there was never been a tribe, culture, society, or group of individuals who have subsisted solely on just cooked muscle meat for their entire existence. It's never happened in human history. It's never happened. You will not find it. Now, you can get some of these cold climate, like the Inuit, some of that. They still had some carbohydrate. They get it from the
A
naturally
little bit.
occurring glycogen in the blood that they consume because they like to drink blood because that was a delicacy to them. They would eat some
That's
raw
weird,
meat.
but okay.
Hey, do your thing,
Do your
you
thing.
know. They would eat a lot of raw meat, which made sense. Cold climate,
That's fair.
that's fine, which contained the animal's naturally occurring muscle glycogen as well, because it wasn't cooked away. And then they would drink the milk of lactating mammals, which, as we know, contains some carbohydrate. So, in
Yeah.
some cases, depending on the season, the Inuits could take in 10 to 15% of their intake from carbohydrate from some form. So, again, to say we should be zero carb forever is not factual or absolutely necessary. Now, if you have occurred major physiological metabolic damage through damaging yourself through lifestyle and poor nutrition for decades, then yes, you may need an intervention of extremely reduced carbohydrate, and you may need a term or a time of eating almost nothing but healthy grass-fed, animal meat, pastured eggs, and the
Pasture.
like
Yeah.
to repair yourself and reset the balance and get back to being a proper, sustaining human being again. And then hopefully in time reintroduce a few things and, live a sustainable life. And that's just common sense and rational thought. And I just reject the dogmatic zealots out there that say you have to do what we do or we're going to tear up your card and revoke your membership and you're out of the club. So, I guess that's why I'm not a member of anything because I don't fit into clubs.
Well, I got a question that's going to kind of segue into the next section.
Yeah,
And
am I getting
that's
too angry? I don't, yeah, man.
no,
Yeah.
no,
All
no,
right.
no, no. This might make you angry, actually, this
Oh,
next
fantastic.
question. Um, so I have heard this a lot, and I've heard people rebut this. In fact, I've heard Dr. Eric Westman
Mhm.
rebut a very big carnivore influencer on this. And um, so how do you feel about reverse dieting? Because I'm a product of the 90s. I was
Mhm.
born in the 80s, early 80s, grew up in the 90s, and it was fat makes you fat. You have to eat less than 1,000 calories. Most of your, of course, everything came from carbohydrates at that time
Mhm.
and seed oils. And a lot of people will come into the carnivore space to certain coaches or certain influencers, and they'll put them on a reverse diet because they're like, you have not been feeding yourself properly.
Right.
Like if you're coming from the low fat, low calorie, and they just tell them, I want you to eat all the calories, all the fat,
Mhm.
and re-nourish your body. Where do you fall on the reverse dieting spectrum?
I don't think. we should take somebody who has been under eating, underfed, and maybe incurred some metabolic damage from that activity over the long term by force feeding them gobs and gobs of fat. I think there still needs to be an intelligent design component to that.
Okay.
And that's why I will tell most people, well, here's the thing. Here's what I have found. Here is just an anecdotal N equals one kind of a thing that I
Hmm.
have witnessed for many years with many different types of people. This happens a lot to me, and this is going to irritate some people, I'm sure. But I
They
have
can get
had,
over it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
they get over it. I've had especially women come to
Hmm.
me and say, I went full carnivore, or in the past, I went full keto, nearly zero carb, or I'm at 10 grams of carbs, and I'm in a deficit, and I'm fasting, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And I did that in the first couple of months, things were going well. I lost some weight, and then everything completely stopped. And then I get a lot of stuff like this. My cycle is all out of whack. My
Yep.
hair is falling out. My performance in the gym sucks. I have issues with my sleep, and everything is just completely become a train wreck. And some will even say, I went and got my blood work done. My thyroid's a mess.
Hmm.
Everything is just out of whack. And
Yep.
I will often say this. Number one, I never see good things happen with, especially with women, with long-term energy deficits. And I
Hmm.
never recommend somebody do one any longer than 8 to 12 weeks.
Hmm.
Think of that as your period of getting lean. And then once that's over, we'll need to do a diet break, pull out of that, raise your volume of food, re-nourish your body, reset the machinery a little bit, and then make a plan to go through the next cycle. It's more cyclical in that way. In my
Hmm.
opinion, that works best. And here's the part that's going to piss a lot of people off. Now, I've had some women that I say, right now we need to bring up your total mass of food a little bit. You're very underfed, and that's
Hmm.
throwing you out of whack. Or you're doing way too much long-term fasting. You need to back off on that a little bit. Not that fasting's bad, but anything chronic can become bad. And then the other problem is always focusing on being in ketosis, I think is a bad thing. And I think we should pull out of ketosis regularly and then go back in. It's more of a metabolic switch. I think works better for most people. So
Hmm.
these people that complain of all the things that I just outlined, we always fix that by one of two things. I just raise their total amount of food. Oftentimes they really dial down that energy component. It's generally fat for these people. So I'll raise the fat back up a little bit, still keep that protein relatively high. And sometimes that does the trick. They just needed a diet break. But in many cases, this is where people can start throwing daggers at me. I will take these same women and I'll say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to ingest 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrate from clean sources that you tolerate well 3 days a week. I don't care what days they are. I don't care what time of day you eat them. And if you're having trouble sleeping, maybe try it before bed.
Before bed.
Before bed.
I've heard that help. Seen that help with other people.
Well, and the moral of the story, for anybody who's waiting for it, is of the large amount of people that come to me with these issues on a very regular basis, and
Hmm.
we recommend that intervention. I would not be lying in any way, shape, or form if I said 85 to 90% of these people all see things get better all the time, all the time.
Okay.
Myself, sometimes if I'm training hard, I'm, eating super clean and doing my thing, there might be those times where I can just tell I'm not going to sleep. I'm just too wound up. I'm too fired up.
Hmm.
And what will I do? 2 giant tablespoons of raw honey with some salt right before I go to bed. I sleep like a freaking newborn. It's just
Well, I
the
don't
best.
know. My newborns didn't sleep for shit, so.
Maybe that was a bad term. And for somebody with 4 kids, you think I'd know better. But yeah, I would sleep like a toddler. Is that better?
Okay, that's better.
But yeah,
You could speak, you're sleeping like a teenage boy going through puberty.
or my dog Mabel. She's a 120 pound Great Dane puppy, and she's on the couch right next to me right now, just sawing toothpicks over here. She's out. She's out. But yeah, I mean, back to the discussion. Uh, Long-term caloric deficits never turn out well. Long-term chronic ketosis never turns out well long-term for most people. And long-term chronic fasting, I don't see any reason why anybody needs to fast more than 24 to 36 hours here and there. I really don't. And the other thing I found that's really interesting with women, especially again, is these women who are just love intermittent fasting. Fine, I get
That's
that.
me.
But they'll come to me and say, I've been doing intermittent fasting and now
Hmm.
things are not working well anymore. I'll say, well, is your fasting window later in the day? Or is your eating window later in the day? Excuse me. And almost all the time it is. They'll say, yeah,
Yep.
I'll eat my first meal around 11 or 12, and then my cutoff is about 6 or 7 at night. And I'm like, okay, try this. So what I want you to try to do is I want you to have your first meal of nothing but protein and fat first thing in the morning, right as the sun's coming up. And preferably, I want you to eat that food while you're getting that morning sunlight into your eyes. And I want you to try it that way. And so then I want you, that means your feeding window would be sunrise to somewhere after lunchtime.
Hmm.
And then you fast for the remainder of the day. And then you're going to bed with nothing in your digestive tract, which we have really found compelling evidence that the body goes through its greatest level of healing between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. And
So
then,
if there's no food in there, then it's not sparing the energy to
correct,
digest.
and you're going to get greater heightened recovery processes. And there's
Hmm.
also evidence to suggest that once the body is done recovering, building muscle, you're burning fat, you're repairing cells, regenerating tissue, then the brain, being your biggest energy suck, is going to kind of take over that process from about 3 a.m. until your body starts to send the signals of heightened cortisol to prepare you to wake to start your day. That's why it
At
always,
about 4:58 a.m. for me, unfortunately.
that's about right for most people. And that's why that happens. And see,
30 minutes before my alarm. It's not very nice.
I get up at 4 a.m. anyway, so I win. Um,
You wouldn't.
but but that always seems to have a much more positive effect as well, and it's a very interesting thing. A lot of that, if any of your listeners out there follow the very eccentric Dr. Jack Cruz,
Hmm.
who is,
I'm gonna have to look him
really,
up.
really part of this whole circadian biology, sunlight, and its effects. I mean, he's a brilliant. He's almost so brilliant you can almost can't understand the guy. But
I know a
he
few of them in the space like
well,
that.
there's a great series of podcasts with the music producer Rick Rubin, who's also kind of a health hacker, and it's Rick Rubin, Dr. Jack Cruz, and Andrew Huberman.
Oh,
And
okay.
we all know who that is. And
Mm-hmm.
they had like three very long-term podcasts about sunlight, its effects, and this and that. And Dr. Cruz, who is a brilliant neurosurgeon, like off the charts brilliant, is also leading the charge and recommending people have that first meal of mainly just protein and some fat right as the sun's rising, setting that circadian clock, and then trying not to have very much food in the system later in the day to for your metabolic process. And then obviously, and I say the same damn thing, though nobody really listens, is once sunset occurs, shut off all the blue light, light freaking candles, read paper books, sit by a freaking fire pit, maybe spend time with your spouse, I know novel concept, and
And your kids.
and your kids and back away from that a little bit, or at the very minimum, get amber bulbs in your lamps, wear blue blocking glasses, and that can make a profound difference in your entire system, and things get so much better when you start doing that. And so these are things that I have witnessed, over many years of working with people every single day and seeing phenomenal results.
Yeah. I love that you were talking about like uh women that are doing all these things because that's kind of where I've been because I have Hashimoto's issues.
Right.
So it's like, and I've tried to explain this to people, and people tell me I'm batshit crazy or that I just don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm
You
like,
too?
Liz, I know. I'm like, listen, if your thyroid is off, it doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
If you have low thyroid, it does not matter. And they're like, yes, it does. And I'm like, it has to do with insulin. And you could still have optimal insulin levels, but I don't know if you know who Dr. Ben Bickman is.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did this study on fat cells in thyroid patients,
Mhm.
and people with hypothyroidism have increased like 70% more insulin receptors on their fat cells.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to store all the fat. Like, your
Right.
body's like, I'm in fat storage mode. And there's like
Right.
nothing you can do. But people don't believe me.
Yeah, insulin's a tricky thing because insulin, it's like everything that I do, I tell people, listen, it's not about how much or how little.
Mhm.
It's finding the precise amount required to obtain the desired result.
Yes,
So to say that insulin across the board is the boogeyman and everything you do should be to the full suppression of insulin, I don't think
that's
is
dumb.
accurate. That is dumb. But people in the carnivore keto space are echoing that horseshit every single day. And we have insulin for a reason. Yes,
Hmm.
insulin at times can definitely be a fat storage hormone, but it's also an anabolic hormone that is
Yes,
critical to the production of lean muscle mass. And to suppress it fully is completely asinine. And I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. So rather than having continual tidal waves of it, you want to have a small bump at the precise time and the precise amount to help you
that you
accomplish
eat.
whatever the goal is.
Yes.
And that's where we go back to, it doesn't have to be zero this and only eat this and do this for the rest of your life. And if you don't do it, you're weak and that's insanity. And again, to say if somebody's having 30 grams of carbohydrate from from some raspberries and a spoonful of honey is some sort
Hmm.
of a criminal, those people are the ones that need to be locked away. That's just ridiculous. And I am for the full expression of free speech. But at the same time, I think we all need to just chill a little bit and bring some sanity into this space and realize once again, the way we started this discussion, that it is individually nuanced across the board to
Exactly.
everyone. No two people are alike. And for me to prescribe the same diet, the same macros, the same percentage of everything to every client that comes my way, that would make me criminal to do that and unqualified to do what I do to these wonderful people who put their trust and faith as me as a coach, because that's the goal is to help them succeed. And I'm not going to lie to anyone through YouTube, Facebook, or anything else for clicks and follows and likes if it compromises my integrity and makes someone that puts their faith in me confused in the message. Because ultimately, if they get results, that's the only thing that matters. And I would never tell anybody to do anything that I don't do myself. And if I'm wrong about something, which happens a lot, the first person who's going to get online and make a retraction and correct themselves is going to be me. I think some of these influencers are so monetarily connected to their ideology that they're terrified to break from it, even if they start to see a chink in the armor, because they're afraid it's going to lose some money or they're going to lose followers, they're going to lose some small element of their tiny fame, and it's to the
Mm,
detriment of the people that trust them in the first place. And I just don't think that's right.
yeah, I agree. And I'm gonna keep a couple things to myself because I want to get more followers, not less. Um,
Well, you know
so
what? Sometimes the
they
loudest people attract the. I think people are done,
sometimes,
and
yeah.
sometimes people want someone like you, someone like me, to say, "Damn it, enough of this."
Yep.
Hey, if you're watching this, you're not broken, and if you are a
Yes.
little broken, we can fix you. Let's cancel out some of the noise. Let's begin by looking at
Hmm.
this logically and rationally. Let's start with
Yes.
that. And then let's work through this together. It's like talking about calories. And I don't know if you're going to bring that up or not, but the calorie is not an accurate form of measurement. To say
No.
that, like if you get on the treadmill and it says you burn 326 calories, you don't have a freaking clue.
This right here is is the biggest. It's so full of shit.
Yes.
Just letting you know.
The only,
This is
yeah,
not
I agree.
accurate. This is not accurate.
So
Just don't
to
rely on this. Don't become obsessive. So I was going to ask about that.
yeah.
What do you do when your people become obsessive? Like with calories, with stepping on that scale, with, oh, well, my watch says that I burned 217 calories. That's all I've burned today is 217 calories. Like,
First of all, if a client tells me they burned 217 calories today, I'll tell them A, you didn't, and B, I don't care. and C, put down the watch and back slowly away from it. Um, because again, it's so nuanced. Calories in, calories out, just at sheer face value is antiquated and silly. And I talked about it in a previous video recently. You can
Mhm.
use calories because that's the metric we're all used to using, right? That's the thing. We need
It's
we
our
need
rough
we
guesstimate.
need to assign some system to this energy in order
Hmm.
for us to track it and notate trends, right?
Yeah.
So if what I do with a client, I start out with a loose calculation based on what has worked for so many over the years. Like I might say, for this individual, I would like you to consume 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. And then we're going to start you at zero point 0.7 grams of fat per pound of goal body weight. We're going to allocate this amount of carbohydrate based on the goals you gave me and your
Hmm.
tolerances and your level of metabolic distress. And those carbohydrates are more of a limit, not a
Not
necessity.
a, not a, yeah, not a goal.
Right. And now those numbers that we calculated are going to be assigned a caloric figure just based on the way the whole system works. So
Hmm.
then what we're going to do is we're going to track that volume of food based on that calculation over the course of 4 to 6 weeks. And
Hmm.
provided you are compliant with your tracking, aka honest, in what you're consuming over 4 to 6 weeks on a very general
Hmm.
basis, then we know if that adjusted calories is working with that volume of food. So
Hmm.
it's simply just as a tracking tool, not at face value. So I mean, you can't track calories out. Nobody can. I mean,
The
that is the
only
most
way,
inaccurate thing in the world.
there's only one way that you can, and that is hooked up to a machine where it is calculating the carbon dioxide that you are expelling.
Right. But even then, you can't really account protein into the mix because we
Nope.
don't have a freaking clue
Nope.
how protein
It's
is
all an estimate.
legitimately burned because protein its pathways are completely different in
Mm-hmm.
how it's broken down compared to energy components. We
Mm-hmm.
have protein is a building block and energy is carbs and fat. Essential
Mm-hmm.
energy is fat, non-essential energy is carbs.
Yep.
I love it when people say, well, carbohydrate is not an essential nutrient. Yes, we know that. Fifth graders know that, or they should. That doesn't mean because it's not essential that it can't be utilized for certain people at certain times, under certain circumstances, on
Circumstances.
certain occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Because ancestrally, our ancestors used carbohydrate in some capacity since the dawn of our human existence. They did. Even current living hunter-gatherer tribes like the Hadza out there, if they are out there on a hunt to hopefully kill an animal and bring it back to their tribe, and they stumble onto a honeycomb, they
They're going to
stop
stop and eat it.
everything. You got two guys shimmying up that tree with lightning precision, tearing that honeycomb down. They're ripping it apart, and they're all eating honeycomb with the bee larva still in it, with honey oozing down their arms. It's big smiles on their faces because to them, they just conquered the damn world. And what a bounty of wonderfulness given by the gods,
Yeah.
they're not going to say, no, sir, we can't have honey because ha ha, we are carnivore and we don't want to be kicked out of the club. It's just lunacy. And they
It
are
is.
lean, fit, super healthy, and they have none of the modern Western diseases. They don't get cancer. They don't have heart disease. They don't have type 2 diabetes. They don't have metabolic dysfunction. Their
I
biggest
would
problem
like to
is
know
they
the
like to
rates of
smoke pot.
autoimmune. I would like to know the rates of autoimmune in those people.
Well, according to some of the people that I've read and listened to in-depth podcasts for people who have spent time out there with those people, they haven't found any evidence
Anything.
of anything like that. They did
It's
say
crazy.
that these people like to party. You know, I mean, if you look out through human existence, Asian cultures drank the crap out of some rice wine. South
Sake.
American cultures had corn beer.
Hmm.
The American Indians, made their own alcohol. Everybody at some point when they're chilling after a hard fought day likes to unwind a little bit. Some of these hunter-gatherer tribes to this day chain smoke and smoke weed and do all these things. And, they couldn't even find any evidence of lung cancer with these people.
Yeah, but just go see how they make cigarettes and then you'll understand why we have lung cancer.
Well, yeah. And the funny thing is,
They sweep the dregs off the floor and put it back into cigarettes.
oh, I wouldn't doubt it. Someday ask me about what I think of nicotine. I think nicotine is a
Is the
spectacular.
devil. I think it's the
Nicotine is
devil.
not the devil. Nicotine has extreme benefits is if taken in its natural form.
Okay,
Not
okay, I will give you that. I
and,
quit
and
vaping. I quit vaping. It'll
Vaping is
be
terrible, smoking is terrible, chewing tobacco is terrible, but nicotine in its pure form is incredible health promoting benefits. And uh, you know, three-letter government agencies do not want you to know that because
mm.
it cuts into their bottom line. It's
Well,
very
most of the
compelling.
things on the market are synthetic too. Like the
Correct,
nicotine
right,
patches are synthetic.
right.
People
That's
need to understand that. And the vapes are 100% synthetic nicotine. I
right.
gained 5 pounds within a month quitting vaping last year.
Oh, for
And it
sure.
was
Yeah.
like, it was because, and my resting or my walk, like, yeah, my resting heart rate went from in the 80s to in the 60s.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
Yeah. So it
100%.
was like
Yeah,
commercial nicotine's bad.
we've got some companies out there sort of on the cutting edge of this that are creating non-synthetic natural forms of nicotine used for therapeutic purposes.
Mm.
And what we're seeing come out of that little area is kind of mind-blowing. It's new.
Do you
It's
have studies on
interesting.
that or
Um,
like
I,
links to something you
yeah,
can send me
yeah,
sometime?
I can send, I'll send you some stuff. It's very,
Okay.
I'll put it this way, it's compelling. And back to your
Okay.
vape argument, if somebody
That's
said,
bad.
"Oh, I'm going to smoke and that's just the way it's going to be," I'd say, you know what? Instead of vaping or smoking your Marlboro, go to your local like mom and pop tobacco shop, ask for a bag of organic pipe
Tobacco.
tobacco,
Hmm.
smoke it in a pipe, and that's about as clean a form of smoking that you can possibly get away
My
with. I'm
husband,
not saying
that's
it's
what
not going to
my,
kill you, but
no, my husband smokes a pipe
I
and
smoke a
smokes
pipe. Now,
cigars.
I don't inhale it. I use it just for
No, they
the
puff. He puffs
flavor.
it.
And that's what I do as well. And I'm not going to lie and say every once in a while I don't accidentally inhale a little bit. I'm like, okay. But
You absorb the nicotine through your mucous membranes
absolutely
in
you
your mouth
do.
anyway. So,
Yeah. And every once in a while I also have a glass of bourbon. So
sue you.
and
You're getting canceled. You are carnivore
I
canceled.
am done. I am canceled. Thank God. I was hoping I could finally get there. Thank you for allowing me to finally get the hell out of this
I
place.
know, right? Sorry.
No, but
No,
I'll be the first one to say this. Alcohol is 100% toxic. There is nothing good about alcohol whatsoever.
we don't have a storage unit for it, so the body has to deal with it. It's
It's
oxidative
toxic.
priority one.
It's toxic, but guess what I will have occasionally on a Saturday night when I'm cooking a ribeye out with my dogs by the fire pit is I will puff on a pipe or smoke a fine cigar with a small glass of
Glass of
very good
bourbon,
bourbon. And if it's
and
killing me,
that
it's
is
taken
okay.
forever. But
That is and that's I think it's also you got to have fun too.
yes, you do.
Um, so I'm going to ask you some fired off questions because I know that we scheduled this for an hour and a half and we're coming up on that, and I just
Well, I have
don't
all the
want to
time
lose
you have. I
everything.
have all the time you have. So as long as my
Okay.
dog doesn't freak out to have to go to the bathroom, I am good.
Okay.
So whatever you need to do.
Yeah. So question, because we were talking about hormones
Mhm.
and so who's easier to coach, men or women?
That's a cool question. You want to know why? Who are the most receptive to taking instruction? Women. Who are generally the ones who will really go hard and who ultimately wind up being the most badass? Women.
Mm.
Um, Men, it's you're going to get one or the other. I think a lot of men think they have weightlifting DNA, and who am I to tell them because they were born with it? And even though they look like a wad of bubble gum, that for some reason they know best. But men do respond in terms of body composition changes easier than women.
Hmm.
They do,
But
and
women are more determined.
women generally are more determined. They seem to be more focused. and they almost have this air of retribution. I'll show you. Once they make the
I can
decision,
understand that because
yeah,
we've been told so long. And it wasn't until CrossFit really, if you really look at it, it wasn't until CrossFit got big that it became acceptable for women to have like big arms and shoulders and to
yeah,
look
that's
muscular
valid.
and
That's
fit.
valid for sure. Yeah.
So we've had to, so now all of a sudden we're like, we got to prove ourselves.
Yeah, and I really think that women, they're a joy to coach except for certain times out of the month, and that's not a sexist thing to say.
Hormones are no,
You have to
hormones
account
are
for that. And
like,
I'm going to give you the simple answer. If when I know that a female client is coming onto her time of the month,
mhm.
that's when I'm going to give them a greater volume of food.
Okay.
If they have a lowered
But
energy,
when specifically are you so like the week before or during, like when they've started menses? Like which one?
well, first of all, I usually have to ask the client how they feel.
Hmm.
And generally, it's right as they're beginning.
Okay.
They know they're going to come into a slightly heightened volume of food. And if they are in a reduced energy component, like if I have their fat dialed down a little bit because they're trying to get lean, I'll
Hmm.
pull that up for that short period of time.
Okay.
And that's also the time where the women that tolerate them, that's when I'll give them a little extra carbs.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, they just do so well when I do that.
Just a
And
lot are
it's
they a lot happier? I'm just
yes,
asking.
yes. So like I might say something like, you know, Lisa, you've been working really hard. It's that time, and you've been killing it. You're getting great results. You look amazing. You have this wonderful attitude. And I know just through, back and forth with them that they like certain things. I might say, hey, you know what? Saturday night, have a steak and a baked potato and put a big hunk of grass-fed butter on that potato and some salt and pepper and enjoy that. So what I do sometimes with those women is I give them specific permission to do certain things because it
Mhm.
kind of takes the pressure off. Because if they have
I like
more
that.
more nuanced individual instruction, like I might say, hey, you know what? Um, put some fresh berries and some full fat Greek yogurt when you're done with your cardio a couple of days this week.
Mm.
Or if I know they like a particular food and it's not just like horse shit, I'll say, hey, have a little bit. You've earned it. This is your time of the month where you're going to thrive on that and you're not going to have any diminishing returns. I know they won't. And if I tell them that, then it's almost like I accept that. You gave me the permission, so I'm going to do this. It's been prescribed, so it
I
doesn't get
like
them
that.
stressed out. And then, we pull them back to whatever the standard macros are in the mesocycle that we're in, and they
Hmm.
know to just revert back. And it works like a damn charm. The only thing I
I
have
like
to be
that.
careful of is you will get the certain individual that when they do have those, if they're very metabolically broken, it may end up being a psychological issue where they just go off the rails, where
Yep.
all of a sudden, you're going to find them in an alley somewhere panhandling for carbs covered in powdered sugar, and it just goes completely
It goes
haywire.
south.
It just
Yeah.
goes
Okay.
south. So, you just might need to pay a little bit more attention to people like that and say, here's what I want you to have on this day at this time. And then let's not go crazy.
Yeah.
We have a plan here, and I need you to work the plan and you're going to be great. So just the nuance of how you say it is I think is very important. And again, back to the whole temptation culture. It's a crazy temptation culture and they're getting it from all sides. So,
It's insane.
I've got to
Yeah.
walk them through it because they're going to be inundated with everything. They're going to go to the office the next day if they do that. And then, they're going to be, tempted by coworkers and staff and people around them to eat this and why are you being so strict? Or, hey, why don't you live a little? And I explained to them that listen, that these people are trying to bring you down to their level to justify their laziness. It's not, they're hiding behind your success. If they can bring you down to their level, then they can justify them abusing themselves and they'll sleep better at night knowing that they can eat that shit and they brought you down to that level. It's their little victory, whether it's conscious or subconscious. So, and that's why I use the term all the time. You got to be the freak in the room in
Mm,
everything that you do. And that's not physically freak, necessarily. And I use that term a lot, and I have clients saying that to me all the time. Freak in the room, I'm the freak in the room. Meaning, if you're in a room or a social setting or a family setting or wherever you're at, you need to look around you and scan the room and say, because of the choices that I make and the way that I choose to live my lifestyle to be a better human being, to be the best version of myself that I can be. So I not only am the best I can be, but I can be that person for others and be that influence on others. You're a freak because that's
mm,
not the way our culture is anymore. And for you to acknowledge that it's going to take hard work and effort and sacrifice and even suffer in order for
mhm,
you to come out and earn the victory that you have in your head. You know, to win at anything is going to require hard work and pain and effort and suffering. But here's the thing, once you reach the goal, no one ever complains about the pain that they went through once the goal is achieved. You might complain while you're going through it, while you're fighting the battle. But once the victory is achieved, nobody ever complains about the suffering they went through. They're
mm. It's
going
like
to
labor.
they're going to recall it. They're going to tell stories about it. They're going to brag about it because
Hmm.
they've reached that level of human accomplishment that so many never attain anymore. And we never find that value and purpose that we have
Yeah,
encoded in our DNA. Human beings are not static creatures. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no middle ground.
true.
There's no
I love
holding
that.
pattern. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And every decision you make throughout the day means that decision that I made is either going to make me a better human being tomorrow or a lesser human being tomorrow. I'm either gaining or I'm declining.
Mm,
And that's, that's every decision that we make. So that's what you have to keep people on task for. So, talking about working with clients, give them the bar napkin. It's not that hard.
hmm.
It's not the blueprint. It's the day in and day out practice. It's the day in and
Yeah.
day out application. It's the exertion. It's what you go through. That's the hard part. I mean, people say, I'm going to run a marathon. Oh, that sounds like a great goal. I'm highly motivated because I saw this video or I saw David Goggins or my neighbor did it. So I'm going to do this. Okay, that's fantastic. You're motivated. Fantastic. It's not going to last. So I hope you got some dedication because on
Hmm.
day one, they might, tie on their shoes and go for a practice run. And then on day two, they might do the same thing. And then one morning, they're going to wake up at 5 a.m. to go on a run and they're going to open the door and it's going to be 23
Cold
degrees and
and
snowing
yep.
and dark and shitty and they're not feeling it. And it's the person that says, screw it. I'm going to go get nasty. I'm going to go mix this up, you know, or the person that says, screw this, I'm going to go back in bed. Right there, that was the decision. That was the defining moment that defines who you are right now in real time, where you are in your life. And if you're able to overcome that and still strap on those shoes and go get that run done, then that's the thing. When I'm in a hardcore rucking training program, I've got a 50-mile ruck challenge I'm doing next year.
Wait, which one are you doing?
I'm doing my own. I am doing my own self-supported kind of a rugged 50 miler
Are you
where
going to be raising money for something?
um, I haven't figured out yet, but I'm definitely going to.
Okay,
So yeah,
good. Make
for
sure you
sure.
tell us so we'll promote it.
Yeah. And I'm going to document it and I'm not going to have any support on it. I'm going to be like point A to point B, 50 miles, everything's in my pack on through the night, get it done regardless of, what's going on, that kind of a
Mm,
challenge. So when I'm training for that, I know the task that's in front of me is going to be
hmm.
really hard. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be bigger than
Embrace
me.
the suck.
So you
Em,
gotta
that's the
embrace the
army
suck.
motto.
Absolutely. So there might be those days where I miss my training ruck. And you know what? I'm going to be the guy that is going to be out rucking around in the neighborhood at 9:30 at night in the dark with a headlamp on,
Mm,
with my wife protesting the entire time. Or I may say, okay, then tomorrow, and I actually spoke about this and showed some video on a YouTube video from last year. There were a couple of mornings where because of my schedule, I had to get up at 2:15 a.m.,
hmm.
2:15, 2:30 on some days and go out in the dark and do an hour and a half ruck and then come home, take a shower and be to the gym by 4:30 in the morning. And
Hmm.
that's just what you had to do.
Yep.
And
That's
that that
dedication.
that's
Yeah.
the mentality that people need to embrace. And you need to do that one
Why didn't
hard
you go
thing.
into the military? That's a military mentality. That is infantry
Because of a damn
mentality.
girl, because of a damn woman, you know, damn it. I was literally at the recruiting office on three separate occasions. It was right with the first Gulf War. And of course, I was a young guy and I was all, full of myself. And I thought, I'm going to go kill terrorists. And
Of course you did.
and the recruiter even said, hey, because of the recruiting goals right now and what we're going through, we even have this kind of fast track program. If you qualify to maybe go to Ranger School, da da da. I'm like, yes. So I went on three different occasions, met with the same recruiter. And on the day that I was determined to go down there and sign the papers, something told me not to. I don't know why. And I went back home and a week later met a girl. And that girl is now will be my wife of 30 years in
Oh,
June of 2025. And she's probably, wondering where I am right now. So, damn it, if it wasn't for Nancy, I might have been something. I might have been a contender.
that's a really great name. That was my mom's name.
Yep, that's my lovely bride of 30 years, four kids later, and now a grandson. So I guess it's probably a good thing that I didn't go into the army.
So, got some rapid fire questions
Let's
just
do
to
it.
sort of like round it off, and they're more fun. Favorite carnivore meal?
Favorite carnivore meal? It would be steak cut up with warm, runny egg yolks over it,
Mm, okay.
tied with, now this is going to sound weird. My wife makes chicken legs that she puts in a corning dish and puts more grass-fed butter than any human being should be allowed to play with, and a bunch of fresh garlic and spices that I'm not even aware exist. And she bakes that in the oven for like 5.5 hours. And sometimes the meat just falls off the
Oh,
bone
that
before
sounds
you can get
so
it.
good.
Oh my God, they're amazing. And somebody's going to say you shouldn't have chicken on a carnivore diet.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, they
th
can kiss
those
my ass.
those people exist. So it'd be between those two things. I absolutely love those two things.
That sounds amazing. Go to workout. What's your training right now? Because we
Uh,
talked about the McGuff and you were like, yeah, that's how you should train. So I thought that was interesting.
yeah.
There's people that tell me that's the dumbest thing they've ever heard.
If you knew my history, you'd know that I've been a high intensity training advocate
Is that what that's
since.
called? Is
Yep,
high
it's
intent?
high
Okay.
intensity training where you're trying to get the greatest amount of intensity in the shortest amount of time.
Yep.
Generally, it's no more than about two sets per exercise. Very minimalistic,
If
but
that.
every set goes to failure. So yeah, I still like a body part split, especially at my
Mm,
age, because I really want to focus on each muscle group to the greatest level that I can, and then give it the greatest amount of recovery that I can, because that's when the magic
mm,
happens. So I operate on a 4 day split right now. I'll do like back and biceps on Monday. I'll do like shoulders, traps, and core on Tuesday. Take Wednesday off. I'll do a brutal leg day on Thursday, and then I do chest and triceps on Friday. And then Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday are off days. My
okay.
favorite
See,
body
I
part to
like
train.
to do,
My favorite body part
go
to
ahead.
train is back, though, in case that was part of the question.
It's always part of the question. See, I want to get it all done.
Right,
So I hit the big five
right.
to failure.
Yeah,
And then
that's a lot of
I
gone
do
back
that
to like
2 days. I
right.
do 2 days a week. And then other days of the week I do like high intensity interval training, like
Yeah.
cardio. So doing like everybody makes fun of me, but it's like Les Mills body combat. So it's a mix of
Yeah,
all the
yeah, that's
different
great.
martial arts.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
HIT is great. HIIT, not HIT.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Both
I
are great.
I will do one session a week, generally, sometimes two. One of them I'll usually do when I'm out on my ruck. So as I'm out on, say, like a
Mm-hmm.
45-minute ruck, I'll stop two or three times, use my ruck as a resistance tool. So I might stop and then I might do, okay, I'm going to do 25 ruck squats,
Mm-hmm.
25 ruck push-ups, flutter kicks, bent over rows with the ruck, maybe dips
Mm-hmm.
off a park bench, and then continue on. Then I might
Okay.
stop 2 or 3 miles later, do that whole same thing again, and continue on. It's very brutal. And
It
then
is
I'll do
brutal.
one more a week if I'm at home. It's like sledgehammer swings on a tire, little heavy bag work. So it's like high
Whew.
intensity intervals for a
Mm-hmm.
couple of minutes, then rest, couple minutes, then rest. And if I'm at the gym, then I like to get on the horrific, satanic echo bike and do like 10, 12 calorie intervals, high intensity with a little recovery. And then it's just,
Yep.
the echo bike,
The all out like
yeah.
sprints.
And,
Yeah.
and that's just a horrible thing, but I might do that. But I only do it once or twice a week because I also think that the metabolic load is harsh and it's all
Yeah.
about recovery. So between my 4 day split, a couple of metabolic sessions, and my ruck schedule, I'm still going to try to focus on getting as much recovery as I possibly can.
Yeah, I feel that I recover now as a carnivore so much faster
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
than what I did. It used to be that'd be like day two sucked after a workout,
Yep.
and now it's like day two is not as bad as day one. So I'm like, I must be recovering right and eating
Yeah, you
right.
are. And clients get so confused because they'll tell me that workout was terrible and I thought I was going to be crippled and I'm not. Did I do something wrong? I'm like, no,
No, you're
you're
just
you,
eating enough protein and
you're
fat.
putting
You're doing
quality
good.
nutrients into your body and your body is responding to that and it's going to work. And you're doing what I told you to do by getting adequate sleep and getting lots of vitamin D and
Mm-hmm.
magnesium and da da da. And it's all going to work for you. It's once again, it's all synergistic. So absolutely.
Yeah. What is the most underrated aspect of the carnivore lifestyle?
Mental acuity.
Oh, I like that.
That is for me. I mean, even going back to why do I put C8 MCT oil in my coffee? I love the the mental sharpness, the mental clarity. That's probably number one.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the whole reason I started to begin with is just joint inflammation. I don't have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about that anymore. And being 56 years old and still being able to move like a 25-year-old is
That's
a
amazing.
wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But I do love the fact that I don't get cloudy brain. I can stay sharp. So that would be my number one takeaway.
And the last question I have is any book, podcast, or resource recommendations that are your favorite go-tos?
Oh God, yeah. Well, you mean apart from your YouTube show?
Oh, if you've even seen one of my videos, I'd be
Oh, I
shocked.
do
But
my research, young lady.
okay. What was
Yeah,
your favorite video of mine then?
the one you've already mentioned
Okay.
that I didn't finish.
Uh-huh.
Well, um, what was the guy's name? I cherry picked a whole bunch of them because I wanted to see your style, and I was very impressed with
What
your
about
stuff.
Greg? I don't know. Did you see the one with Greg? He's a bodybuilder.
No, but I saw you talking about it, but I didn't get a chance to. I did the notification, but I wasn't able to watch
To
it
hop
when.
on. That's
But
okay.
but I have it saved in my watch later. But funny thing is I'm a geek. When I'm watching podcasts and YouTube shows, it's often outside of the realm of nutrition and fitness.
And that's
Um,
okay too.
yeah, music, politics, cinema. We talked about Sean Ryan. I like to
Yep.
stay up to date on what's really happening in the
We
world
like
and things like
Sean
that.
Ryan and Joe Rogan.
Loved, I've been a Joe Rogan listener since probably day one, and Lex Friedman's great. I, in the space, I still am very entertained by Bart Kay. I mean,
Always.
I'm always popping in.
He's so funny.
He's hilarious, and I still think it's hilarious.
So many people are so scared of him and they're so scared to do an interview with him. And I'm like, you just don't know. Just
Yeah,
do an interview with him and you will see that it's probably one of the funnest ones that you will, it's entertaining. It's
yeah,
just
he's just not that guy
unless
off
you're
air.
vegan,
Yeah,
then it's not so fun for you.
no, he's just such a nice dude, and
He
he's
is.
such a good person, and he's generous, and he'd give you the shirt off his back, which people probably would never pick that up. I
Yeah.
listen to a lot of the like the Huberman stuff, and
Hmm.
I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Favorite
Uh,
book?
Favorite book, God, of all time or like right now?
No, like of all time. I have a series that is like I've listened to on like on Audible like 8 times in a row. And it's like a 12 books. Each book's like 44 hours.
I
Like,
I I only read nonfiction and biography, so I'm not a
oh,
fiction
okay.
person, so I'm really
Okay.
boring. So it's usually always some kind of a biography or something to do with music moguls or business moguls
Okay.
or things of that nature. I'm currently reading Rick Rubin's new book.
Okay.
It's about the creative process,
Okay.
which it's beautifully written by somebody who I have a lot of respect for. So um, that's what I'm currently reading right now. It's really good.
Awesome. So tell people where they can find you I've looked through your coaching programs. One of these days I may get on it. One of these days when I'm not strapped for time.
It's all good. Coaching is something I never sell. I never promote. It's there if you want it. And I'd be honored
The
to have
programs
anyone.
are great. I've looked at what you've got, and I'm
I
not
am,
going
I
to
am
say
proud
that
of
you're
them.
cheap, but you have to be one of the most successful coaches with one of the most successful sets of packages. Like they're so affordable that
Yeah.
it's
Um,
ridiculously
I
affordable.
never wanted to turn anybody away based on budget and lifestyle. So I do have my gold package, which is 100% custom. It's absolutely everything. But then
It's
I
like
have
149 a
149 a
month. It's
month. I
great.
have not raised my rates since I started coaching, and
Mm.
I know people that give half as much for three times as more. And I'm not saying
Yes, I
that
do
to
too.
brag. I like helping people. I like what I do,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of a laid back dude. I don't need a lot of things.
Hmm.
So as long as my family is taken care of, then it's
You're
all good.
gold.
I'll be taken care of. If you treat people the right way, then it'll come back to you. So,
Yep.
my high intensity training program, which is basically the way I trained through almost all of my bodybuilding prep, is 19 bucks a month.
Yep.
And it's new
I saw that.
workouts every week forever. I mean, so and I'm proud of that because I like it when a college student or
Can afford it.
somebody working two jobs or a single mom says, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is $19 and I really appreciate this." I'm like, that's all you needed to say. You just made my freaking day.
Yep.
So, and I love doing consults. That's available on there as well. But,
Hmm.
I'm putting a lot of effort. If you call it effort, people might watch my videos and say, "Oh my God, this is effort." But I'm trying to put a little bit more into my YouTube channel. So
Yep.
anybody that would be kind enough to throw a subscription my way,
Hmm.
I would thank you in advance, and I would appreciate that more than you would ever understand. And if
Yeah,
you
and
want to know,
if you put this on your channel, I would appreciate if any of your people want to come
oh, I'm going to
check out
promote the
mine.
shit
Yeah.
out of it. That's what I do. I mean, we're friends, and people like you and I need to unite in this
Yes.
industry because instead of there being division in the space, there needs to be more unity, and we all
Yeah.
need to gather together as a collective to help
Hmm.
people because that's what it's all about. So you can be rest assured that when this video, when once it launches, I'm going to shout it off the rooftops to everybody because that's
Sweet.
what we should all do. So but robgoodwin.com is where
Yep.
everything's at. That's my website. And if anybody needs anything, I'm accessible. I answer emails. I respond to comments. I'm just a normal dude. And
Yes.
I just appreciate the interaction with any of your followers out there.
Yep. One, I definitely appreciate it. And yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Anytime. This was fun.
It
Some,
is fun. You're very easy to talk to.
well, you are as well. I mean, from the minute we started talking, I was like, this is great. I mean, I can just relax and have a conversation, you
Exactly. That's
know?
the goal. That is my goal. I never want ever any of my videos to be inaccessible.
Well, it's been my honor and privilege. I really appreciate it.
Oh, honor's all mine. So yep.
Okay.
And you're the one that's doing everything. So we'll see y'all later.
Yeah,
And
tell all your wonderful people goodbye and I'll push the magic button.
okay.
All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.